Welcome to episode number 264 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording live on YouTube on March 31, 2019. A ton of things to talk about this week, as usual, including topping it off with Apple services. A lot of announcements from Apple that we'll cover. We'll go into audio content marketing, kind of an abridged version of an extended blog post I wrote about the future of content marketing, which I believe is audio. Novelization of marketing, Twitter subtitles, LinkedIn lookalikes, amped up for email, Intel's smart glasses, the new age of cyber warfare, stacking bots, Fatalgrams, some shiny new stuff you'll want to stick around for, Hardwired for Stories, some LinkedIn pro tips, and we'll wrap it up with the most in-demand technical marketing skills for the daily numbers. I am going solo this week. BL is recovering from rotator cuff surgery, so she's doing well, but she's recovering, and just send her best wishes. You can email me at david@bsmediashow.com with your best wishes for BL, and I will definitely forward them to her. But for now, I'm going solo. So I will kick it off with the best stories of the week, and that's all of our Apple news. So Apple had a ton of announcements since we last talked. Apple TV Plus is a new thing. So Engadget's Richard Lawler writes about Apple TV Plus. It's an ad-free subscription service for their original content. It will have no commercials. It will launch in 100 countries this fall. And the TVs that support AirPlay will be able to stream the videos. The Apple TV app will be the home of the service, which will include the new channels and all of your purchased videos that you've purchased from iTunes. Pricing is yet to be announced. It will be announced this fall. The original content for Apple TV is covered by The Verge's Andrew Liptak. He notes that the market for streaming services is obviously already crowded. There's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's Amazon. Disney is expected to unveil their Disney Plus next month, and NBC Universal is planning on a streaming service in 2020. And then there's the NFL, the Major League Baseball. There's all the Major League sports teams have their own streaming services as well. So a lot of competition. NBC and Disney in particular have deep back catalogs to fill their channels with content. So Liptak notes that this makes the entrance for Apple even harder since they do not have that. And as a result, they are paying a lot for original programming. It's reportedly upwards of $1 billion for the content that they will launch with. And that includes, I'm going to give you a handful of the types of shows. The children's shows, they've got Central Park. It's an animated series from Bob's Burgers creator, Lauren Bouchard. And it's about a family of caretakers in New York's Central Park. They've got 2 Sesame Street shows. One is animated and one is live action. For comedy, there's a title called Dickinson. It's a half-hour comedy show about poet Emily Dickinson, which is set to star Haley Steinfeld. In drama, the big names in drama are The Morning Show title, starring Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston, and Steve Carell. So that's some A-listers right there. It's loosely based off of a book by CNN reporter Brian Stelter called Top of the Morning: Inside the Cutthroat World of Morning TV. So that looks interesting. My favorite topic or genre, science fiction. They've got a reboot of the classic anthology series Amazing Stories, which I will find amazing I used to read those stories, so I'm very interested to see how that turns out. Ron Moore, the creator of sci-fi's Battlestar Galactica remake, is behind a space-based series called For All Mankind. It's an alternative world in which Cold War era space race never ended. That looks interesting. And the biggest thing on my list that is most interesting to me is they have the rights to Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, which was a trilogy I read long ago as a kid. It has Asimov, since I read it anyway, added several other books, so it's a series, and it has never been committed to film. So I am fascinated about how that's going to turn out, and really excited for it. I might pay for Apple TV just for that. Another project that is in development that looks interesting to me is Terry Gilliam, former Monty Python member, film director, and St. Paul boy. His film Time Bandits. So they're working on what looks like might be a serialization of the movie Time Bandits. So that looks good. In the thrillers category, there's a title called Are You Sleeping? It's a series based on a novel about a true crime podcast, and it stars Octavia Spencer from Hidden Figures. Documentaries, there's a project called Losing Earth that's based on last year's New York Times article about climate change by Nathaniel Rich. And on the films side, they have On the Rocks. It's a film by Sofia Coppola, starring Bill Murray, about a woman who reconnects with her larger-than-life Playboy father on an adventure through New York. And then finally, perhaps the biggest name on the list in the talk show category, Oprah has committed to a new Apple book fan club or a book club. This is from Forbes' Adam Rowe, who reports that Oprah Winfrey will be bringing a book club to the Apple TV Plus. It'll launch in the Apple Store and will include live streams across all Apple devices of book club content, which will include live conversations between Oprah and authors. She's also partnering. Oprah is on creating 2 documentary series, one with a working title of Toxic Labor, about sexual harassment in the workplace, and another untitled series focusing on mental health, addiction, trauma, and stigmas surrounding them. So that's an impressive lineup for Apple, and they've certainly got the money to spend on it, and they are spending on it. And then another announcement is Apple Arcade. This is covered by GameSpot's Oscar Deas. So Apple Arcade is a game subscription service designed to provide a variety of titles. It'll be accessible on mobile, desktop, and in the living room. Unlike Google Stadia, Apple Arcade won't be cloud streaming, but it'll be a monthly subscription that provides unlimited access to curated selection of paid titles that are on the App Store. Development partners include Sega, Konami, Disney, Sumo Digital, Cartoon Network, among others. There are more than 100 exclusive games that will be a part of the service. Additional games will be added all the time, quote unquote, whatever that means. You'll be able to play on iOS devices like your iPhone and iPad, but also on Mac OS and on Apple TV. So these games will span all screens, and the versions won't operate independently of one another, so you'll be able to transfer progress between different platforms. So you might be playing a game on your iPhone, you can transfer it to your iPad or to your Apple TV, so that's pretty cool. Every game will be playable offline, and future game updates and downloadable content will be available at no extra cost. The Apple Arcade will have its own tab in the App Store, and the games will be free of ads and microtransactions, so you won't have to pay for additional content like you get nickeled and dimed to death in the mobile games. It'll be available in 150 countries this fall. The pricing is still to come. And among the confirmed games are Sonic Racing, Lego Brawls, Oceanhorn 2, Overland, Fantasian, and Beyond the Steel Sky, which is being worked on by Dave Gibbons of WatchMan fame. Publishers and developers include Lego, Disney, Sega, and Konami. This looks like it's, well, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but it looks like it's Apple's long-range positioning for them to eventually sell Oculus virtual reality gaming titles in the future. That's kind of my take on it. And then another announcement is Apple News Plus. So Apple has upgraded its News app to include a premium version, which is a $99 a month subscription. This is covered by TechCrunch's Sarah Perez. So it will offer $9.99 a month. You'll get access to more than 300 magazines and newspapers. At launch, the subscription includes magazine titles from Bon Appetit, People, Vogue, National Geographic, Elle, Glamour, The Wall Street Journal, Los Angeles Times, and more. Subscribers will be able to get both the current and past issues from a handful of magazines. Among those that interested me are The Atlantic, ESPN, the magazine, Esquire, The New Yorker, Rolling Stone, Sports Illustrated, Time, Vanity Fair, Wired. Combined, the subscriptions would cost more than $8,000 per year. So that's a big number, but who subscribes to 300 magazines? So, you know, but you know, those titles that I just listed are the ones I would be interested in at $9.99 a month. It's probably less than I would pay for a subscription to each annually. So it is a good deal. But I do like print magazines too, so I don't know. And maybe there's something to be said about paying directly to the publisher rather than going through the middleman of Apple. The magazines will have a new design feature called Live Covers, which will be animated images instead of static photos for the magazine covers. The experience looks very much like Flipboard, one of my favorite news apps. It will also customize itself to your interests, but it won't do it by tracking what you read. Instead, Apple will download groups of articles and then use on-device intelligence to make recommendations, which Apple says that means that Apple won't know what you read and won't allow advertisers to track you either. I'm highly skeptical about that. Tell me the details about how you actually do that before I'm inclined to believe that you're not going to be tracking what I read in order to customize for me. I don't know how that works otherwise. Anyway, Apple has been courting high-profile publishers, and they do have the Wall Street Journal, although that looks like it might be limited to general news. So the value of the Wall Street Journal is its business news. So if you're not getting that, then it's not nearly as valuable. But top publishers like the New York Times and the Washington Post are not participating. Anyway, still at $9.99 a month with a bunch of titles, it's probably a good deal. Now, it's available right now in the US and Canada. In Canada, the subscription price is $12.99 a month. It will be available later this year in Europe, starting in the UK and Australia. And then Apple had a new device announcement for AirPods. This is covered by The Verge's Kaimi Gartenberg. So to make all this, make content easier to consume, Apple announced a second generation AirPods, which will include wireless charging case and a new H1 chip that they say improves the battery life. It'll also have Siri support, so you can trigger your virtual assistant without pressing a button, which is significant. There's an extra hour of talk time. Apple says that's a 50% increase from the previous version. There's better microphone clarity. Connection times are twice as fast when you're switching between devices. Apple will be selling the updated AirPods in two options. There's with a wireless charging case for $199, or with a standard case for $159, which is the same price as the previous generation. And they'll also be selling a wireless charging case separately, so existing AirPod users can get it for $79. It's the significance, though, of wireless or hands-free access to Siri is makes Siri a much more engaging technology to use, rather than having to press a button and activate Siri as you do now. So that's significant, and it'll help propel voice activation and voice delivered content much quicker, given the installed base of Apple users. So that's very significant, actually. And I'll get into the audio content marketing shortly, but one last announcement from Apple. Let me take a sip here. The big announcement from Apple is they are going to be giving you credit cards. This again is from The Verge's Kaimi Gartenberg. And, in order to pay for all these services, they're going to have to offer you the credit to do so. So they're offering the Apple Card, You can get it by signing up on your iPhone in the Apple Wallet app. It's you'll get a digital card that you can use anywhere that Apple Pay is accepted, and you'll be able to track purchases, check your balances, see when your bill is due right from the app. There will also be a titanium card, but the card will not have a credit card number. It will not have a security code. It will not have an expiration date. You won't require a signature. So all of the authorization information is stored directly in the Apple Wallet app. And Apple will use machine learning and Apple Maps to label stores that you use in the app and use that data to track purchases across categories like food and drink and shopping. So when you get your typical credit card statement, it usually categorizes them according to types of transactions. So it looks like you'll get the same with the app. And instead of a points-based reward program, Apple will give you cash back rewards in the form of daily cash, which will be applied to your card so you can spend or put towards your purchases. There's 2% cash back on purchases made through Apple Pay. There are purchases made from Apple directly, get a 3% cash back, and purchases made through the physical card will just get a 1% cash back. The company is promising that there will be no late fees, though later missed payments will result in additional interest accumulating. There will be no annual fees, no international fees, no over-the-limit fees, and they will have lower interest rates with no penalties for missing payments. But again, the interest will accrue. With APR rates ranging from 13.24 to 24.24% based on your credit. Apple is partnering with Goldman Sachs for the card, and MasterCard is handling the payment processing. All the spending tracking and other information is stored directly on your device, not on Apple servers. Apple promises that Goldman Sachs will never sell your data to third parties for marketing or advertising. I'm pretty skeptical about this as well. So what happens if your device is stolen or destroyed? Does that mean all your transaction information is inaccessible? I mean, somebody's got to keep that transaction information. If it's not Apple, it's probably Goldman Sachs, or if it's MasterCard. It's somebody. How do you verify fraudulent purchases if your device is stolen and used? Anyway, so a lot of questions with that. Kind of skeptical. We'll see. But I do think this is how Apple competes with Amazon too, because Amazon has all that transaction information, and I suspect this is Apple's way of finding that data. So count me skeptical. Anyway, big one. This is a huge post I wrote, so I'm going to tell you about it because it took a lot of time to put together. You're getting the abridged version. If you want the long version, all the details, you can get it on my eStrategy blog, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But I wrote it because I've been thinking about this for a long time. If you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you know how bullish I am on audio. I do think audio is content marketing's next big frontier, and I'm going to tell you why. So here's 10 reasons in an abridged version why I think it is the future of content marketing. First of all, it's just easy to consume. Audio consumption is hands-free. It's location-free. You can multitask while you're consuming it. So it's just the easiest form of content to consume while you're doing something else, especially. The popularity of podcasts are obviously rising. The ubiquity of voice activation. So voice activation is basically getting built into everything nowadays. Grandview Research valued the global voice and speech recognition market size at $9.12 billion in 2017. And they expect that to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 17.2% during the forecast period. So it is growing. Text-to-voice technology is improving. Amazon Echo, my Amazon Echo reads my Kindle books. So Amazon has that text-to-voice technology that's very good. Google Assistant reads web pages. That's Google's text-to-voice technology is very good. So that technology has come of age. Sorry. Audio indexing is improving as well. So Google is working on indexing audio, And given the amount of audio that is on YouTube, they've got a huge data set to work with and a lot of content to unearth. So the key to that, I mean, is that in audio files, whether they're from video files or podcasts or other audio files, there's a ton of content that's locked in those files, and so Google's working on how to index that information, identify that information, so that when you are searching for, let's say, audio marketing in the future, you might find just this segment of this podcast in your search results because Google's figured out how to understand the audio within the file and unearth it for you in search results. So Google's working on it. Spotify is doing amazing things with waveform analysis, which we've covered in a previous episode. Pandora has the music genome project that they've been working on for a long time, and they've basically applied those principles to podcasting too. So they're working on indexing podcasting based on their genome project methodology. And then there's real-time language translation. So to date, Google Translate is available in more than 100 languages, serves more than 200 million people daily, and enabling real-time audio translation. This is text translation. Google has real-time audio translation they're working on. They've demoed it at the Computer Electronics Show last time. So enabling real-time audio translation could open up the reach exponentially for podcasting, for audio content to the globe. So it'll play a profound role in conversational commerce, I think. And then conversational commerce, Amazon voice orders. Amazon is already, you can already order stuff through your Amazon speakers. Google Duplex technology is allowing people to get book restaurant reservations using AI and voice. And so there's that technology, and that idea of conversational commerce is evolving and will be in our future. And then just consumers' time is being freed up. You think about open offices and headphones in the open offices. So people are listening to stuff all the time throughout the day in their open offices, and just Apple's Airpod earbuds allows anybody to listen to anything at any time, anywhere. Connected cars. So I listen to podcasts on my commutes all the time in my car because it's connected. It's got Bluetooth, it's got Wi-Fi, etc. I can listen to podcasts while I'm driving. And then I think down the road, climate change will force state budgets to focus more on public transit, and more people taking public transit means more free time for them to listen. And then additional things, smart glasses. So Bose is developing, or has developed, smart glasses called frames, which have audio, have basically speakers in the stems of the glasses right near your ears. So it will basically direct audio into your ears. So that's an interesting development. And then there's another thing out of the MIT lab, technology called Alter Ego, which uses internal vocalization. So when you think about saying something without actually saying it, that brain activity and bone conduction apparently are the same thing as if you said it aloud. And that can be picked up through this device that MIT Media Lab has developed, which allows you to issue commands to your digital assistant without actually vocalizing them, which reduces the social friction. Nobody wants to be talking aloud and look like an idiot or look like a crazy person while talking loud to nobody. So being able to do that without being able to vocalize without actually speaking is a huge benefit, and will increase the engagement with the voice activation. Audio analytics is slow in coming, but if anybody's going to be able to do it, it's Google. Google's working, as I said before, on indexing audio, and they have amazing analytics tech capabilities already. And they have a motive to do it because it's a huge opportunity for advertising dollars to monetize it. So I'm confident they will eventually roll out some type of audio analytics product. And then Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, SoundCloud, they've all got got certain sets of data that are right for analytics as well. Finally, just monetizing audio. So Amazon, I mentioned, doing voice commerce. Product placement and audio, like the Jimmy Kimmel telling jokes on the Amazon Echo that we covered in a previous episode. And another interesting thing, I think advertising is going to be hit and miss, and you're going to be very careful about doing advertising because it's highly interruptive in an audio environment. So I think if audio advertising is going to succeed, advertisers have to be smart about who the audience is. And rather than doing traditional advertising, which usually people do, is produce content that is in keeping with what the experience already is and is valuable to the listener. But the exciting thing about this is if you do it right, you can do serial advertising. So you can do an audio spot that's the first one on the list, and then don't serve any more audio. Don't serve that audio ad to anyone who's already listened to it. You serve the next one in the series. So you can do serialization, tell a story throughout a series of advertising based on user behavior. So that's that. If you want the details, again, I'll put a link in the show notes to the blog post for my audio marketing is the future of content marketing magnum opus. And let me take a sip here before I begin the next one. So this next one is interesting. This is by The Verge's Andrew Liptak again. Arizona State University has released a science fiction anthology that imagines the future of solar power. I thought this was a clever marketing tool for a university and something that could be applied in many different areas as a marketing tactic. The anthology is called The Weight of Light, a collection of solar futures, and it's about exploring human futures powered by solar energy. It's part of a broader publishing program from the University Center for Science and the Imagination. And they've released similar anthologies in the past about optimistic futures in space and climate change. The Weight of Light is free to download. You can get it in EPUB format, in HTML, in iBook, in Mobi, but not in Kindle. So we'll put links to those on the show notes so you can download them in one of those formats. Editor Joey Eschrich says that the book was inspired by a simple question: what would a world powered entirely by social energy look like? And so with that in mind, the center hosted a narrative hackathon, bringing together authors and artists and experts to create a technically grounded, inspiring vision of the future shaped by a transition to clean, plentiful solar energy. Looks fascinating. I think just the novelization of concepts, putting them in a storytelling format and making them entertaining and engaging is a very creative idea for getting across marketing and branded concepts. So that's something I'm going to be taking a look at in the future. Next on the list, some social media updates. So Adweek's David Cohn reports on Twitter joining YouTube and Facebook and allowing you to upload subtitles to your videos that you upload to Twitter. So video publishers can now add .srt subtitles to a video they upload to Twitter, and the subtitles then can be viewed in the video on the web, on iOS and Android. So SRT are text files, basically of transcripts of the dialogue or audio in a video. And both, as I said, both YouTube and Facebook have supported SRT files for some time now. Now that Twitter does, you can upload your SRT files with your video via the Twitter Media Studio, via Twitter Ads, or the social networks API. There is no word in the reporting on whether or not the SRT files will be used by Twitter to improve search discovery of videos. So YouTube or video marketers will know that if you create an SRT, the best practice is to create these files for your YouTube videos so that it improves the discovery of the videos, because it is a text file literally of the dialogue of the video. So it's something that YouTube can search to improve and have better knowledge of what the video is about. I would imagine that Twitter would do the same and use these files for search discovery. So if you're uploading videos to YouTube or to Twitter, I would definitely include SRT files along with those. The only problem with that is transcription. If you have longer videos, it's kind of a pain in the ass to do. So if you have the budget to have somebody else do it, definitely do that. Another social media update. This is from the Drum, Andrew Bluestein. LinkedIn has added lookalike audiences to its advertising. Yay, finally. So that's cool. Another new offering is they have audience templates that they've streamlined for finding your audience. So it's a one-step process that separates audience job titles and functions into 20+ templates. So they've added templates for audiences, and they are also doing Bing data integration. So you can now leverage Bing data with LinkedIn's interest-based targeting tool. So some good developments with LinkedIn advertising there. LinkedIn has really evolved a great deal over the years, over the last couple of years especially, and I think the Microsoft acquisition has helped in that evolution. So that's cool. TechCrunch's Frederick Lardinois reports on AMP for email. So if you're not familiar with AMP, AMP is short for Accelerated Mobile Pages. And it is Google's technological answer to Facebook Instant Stories. And so AMP is a technology that Google developed to make pages load much quicker in mobile devices from search. And so Google has rolled this out years ago. Developers are using it to improve their search results in mobile. And now Google is taking that technology and trying to apply it to email. So what it does, it turns your email from static documents into dynamic web page-like experiences. So it's coming to Gmail, but also other major email providers, Yahoo, Mail, Outlook, and Mail.ru. So if you want to reach the Russian audience, they also support AMP for emails. What allows you to do is program your emails so that your recipients can do things like RSVP to an event right within the inbox, fill out a questionnaire in the inbox, browse through store's catalog of items for sale. You can respond to comments and all of that without leaving your email client. Some of the companies that already support AMP, among them are Booking.com, which is a natural, obviously, if you're doing reservations, and Pinterest. A lot of interactivity on Pinterest. For developers, the format should be fairly easy, especially if you've been doing AMP pages for search. The format supports a lot of the popular AMP markup features that include carousels, forms, and lists, and the messages will still include standard HTML as a fallback for email clients that don't support AMP. Third-party support for AMP for email includes SparkPost, which is the email delivery analytics platform, Litmus, which is email design and marketing tool, Twilio SendGrid, and Amazon's SES and Pinpoint email and marketing tools. Wow, you go solo for a whole hour, it is really tough to get through like 2 segments without taking a sip. So I apologize for the interruption, but I gotta wet my whistle. Next, The Verge's Dieter Bahn reports on Intel making smart glasses. They're called Vaunt, V-A-U-N-T. They look like normal glasses, which is, surprise, surprise, one of the things you need to do in order to get adoption. You'll remember me talking years ago about Google Glass and how I made the mistake of buying Google Glass. But one of the things I took away from that experience was I didn't realize that before I bought it, otherwise I probably wouldn't have bought them, but the social stigma of wearing glasses that look like smart glasses. It just, you feel like the glass hole for wearing them. So it is no small thing to make smart glasses that don't look like smart glasses. But it looks like they've done it. I'll put a video in the show notes so you can see the demonstration. They do look normal. And so they're designed to show just simple basic information in one of your eyes. The images are projected into your eyes by bouncing a laser image off of a mirror into your eye. So it's called retinal projection. It's a very low level. It's the lowest level radar you can get. So apparently it's safe. But again, the idea of bouncing radar and a laser into your eye doesn't sound very safe. But there you go. People are doing it. So it produces a holographic effect. So you don't have to consciously focus on the images. If you're not looking directly down at the display, the images disappear so they don't distract you. There's no tapping or swiping. You can control with head gestures. So if you move your head left or right, that's a way of controlling. They have to be fitted for your eyes. And they're designed to only show you very contextually relevant information. So you're not going to get bombarded with a bunch of notifications from Twitter, for example. They should work on both Androids and iOS, but that's a cool development. And again, I'll put the video demonstration in the show notes so you can see that. So we are on to the worst stories of the week, two of which are too long must-reads about cyber warfare. So this is pretty depressing stuff, but we cover the worst. So that's what you got. Public Radio International's Charles Maines writes about troll slayer, quote unquote, Russian journalist Ludmila Savchuk, who went undercover at a troll factory in Russia for 2.5 months to see how it works. She found that the organization was broken up into departments. There was a news division. There was a social media seeders division, SEEDERS. And there was a group devoted to making memes known as demotivators. It was run by a local restaurateur who was placed under U.S. sanctions for attempting to interfere in the U.S. elections. Savchuk believes her work would help Facebook understand how its platform could be gained, but she no longer believes that the fight against trolls is winnable. So that's depressing. It is a long read. It is a must read. We'll put a link to it in the show notes so you can read it. But, the dark side of the web is what we cover as well. So that's one part of it. Another too long must read is from the New York Times. And the reporters on this story are Mark Mazzetti, Adam Goldman, Ronan Bergman, and Nicole Perlroth. And this is the new age of warfare. So they start out by highlighting an Israeli firm that the Saudi government relies upon for digital espionage services, quote unquote. And the odd couple is that, Saudi Arabia and Israel have been adversaries for decades. So the Saudi government relying on an Israeli firm for espionage is weird in and of itself. But it highlights a new age of digital warfare where there are a few rules, and it is a growing economic sector now valued at $12 billion, basically, of spies for hire. So today, even the smallest countries can get these services, quote unquote, that enable them to conduct sophisticated operations, electronic eavesdropping, influence campaigns that were once the preserve of the United States and Russia. Corporations that want to scrutinize their competitors' secrets, or wealthy individuals with a beef can also command these if they can pay for them. It is basically the same thing as purchasing off-the-shelf elements of the NSA or Mossad. The Middle East is the epicenter for these privatized spying companies. Such companies include Dark Matter, NSO, and Black Cube, the last of which is a private company that's run by a former Mossad and Israeli military intelligence operatives that gained notoriety because Harvey Weinstein hired it to dig up dirt on his accusers. And then there's Psy Group, which is an Israeli company focusing in social media manipulation that worked with Russian oligarchs and pitched the Trump campaign on a plan to build an army of bots to swing Republican delegate votes in 2016. So again, more dark stuff. Not so dark, but could be a harbinger of the Robot Apocalypse. This is from MIT Technology Review, which posts a video of Boston Scientific's updated HandleBot, which was first unveiled in 2017. And this robot is a mobile manipulation robot designed for logistics. It can automatically stack and unstack boxes on and off pallets and shift them onto conveyor belts. It has onboard vision to track which objects go where and judge how to grasp onto and place each box. It uses a robotic technique called force control to nestle each box up against its neighbors. The video is not as compelling as previous Boston Scientific videos, but still it's pretty compelling. So we'll embed that in show notes so you can watch it at BeyondSocialMediaShow.com/264. Finally, in worst, but another story of Darwinism. This is from the Arizona Republic's Ali Edelman, who writes about an international tourist who has died from falling hundreds of feet into the Grand Canyon while trying to take photos. So according to David Leibowitz, who's a spokesman for the Grand Canyon West, there was a tour group from Hong Kong who was visiting, and many of the tourists were taking photos very close to the rim of the canyon while attempting to snap a photo at Eagle Point, which is adjacent to the Skywalk attraction. A 50-year-old man from the group accidentally fell off the rim and into the canyon. Yes, he died. But, I mean, we've heard this, we've seen this movie before, we've heard this story before. It's sad, but come on. Get a clue, people. It's not worth a gram. All right, so that's the last of the worst stories. Let's get on to the shiny new stuff. This is pretty cool. This is called Read-O-Meter. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Basically, it's a one-purpose app. You paste your article text into it, and it gives you an approximation of how long it will take to read. So if you want to give your readers a heads up about how long it will take to read something, this is the tool to use. Maybe I should use it for my magnum opus audio marketing blog. I probably should. So there's that. And then the other one I've got is the If Then podcast. This is from Slate. It's hosted by Apple Glazer and Will Oremus. The latest episode is Apple reinventing itself as the ultimate middleman. So the services thing is they cover Apple and discuss on how they're reinventing themselves from a hardware company into a services company. They go on to talk about the frustrations of being managed by an algorithm, so the gig economy, and they focus on drivers of Uber and Lyft saying they're getting their pay cut ahead of the company's IPO, and among the other frustrations that gig economy workers experience. So it's an interesting listen for that topic. And then finally, they have a segment called "Don't Close My Tabs," which they talk about. It's kind of like our shiny new stuff. So Will talked about a Wired article about how we might be reaching peak indifference on climate change, meaning that basically the nub of it is like 60% of Republicans believe that climate change is real. So that's an optimistic take on maybe the tide is turning in terms of opposition to climate change. And then April's story was a story in Slate about Joe Rogan's Galaxy Brain podcast, which is kind of a podcast of the alt-right. And it's an article that gives a interesting take on why it's popular, but also doesn't glorify it. Basically, it is an alt-right kind of podcast, but it's very popular. So it examines why it's popular. So that's an interesting podcast. It's a If Then podcast. I think is a good podcast to listen to stay up on what's going on in technology. So there's that. Some projects. I have a blog post on my eStrategy TV blog titled Hardwired For Story, and includes 2 videos that I found fascinating that are related to one another. They're both TED Talk videos. The first one is by neuroscientist Uri Hasson. who researches the basis of human communication and experiments from his lab that reveal how even across different languages, our brains show similar activity or become aligned when we hear the same idea or story. So in this TED Talk, he explains his research and illustrates that somehow some areas of the brain are activated in both the speaker and the listener when telling and hearing a story. So it's interesting in terms of neurologically, your brainwaves, what your brain is doing when you're both listening or speaking a story, and how that really helps reinforce the idea that dialogue, that conversation, transfers knowledge. So fascinating take. The other one is by Lisa Cron, who she's worked at W.W. Norton in publishing. She's worked as an agent at the Angelo Rinaldi Literary Agency, as a producer on shows for Showtime and Court TV, as a story consultant for Warner Brothers and the William Morris Agency. And she's been an instructor at the UCLA Extension Writers Program. So her TED Talk, she talks about how we humans are hardwired for stories. So I think both of those, the dialogue part, those two videos or TED Talks go together. And I am increasingly getting into in reading a lot about storytelling and how how our brains are affected by stories. So anyway, two fascinating subjects I'm paying attention to. Put a link in the show notes for that. And then another post. This is a blog post on fupping by Jacob Jacobowitz, listing the 28 best blogs to learn marketing. And so among them are, for SEO blogs, there's Backlinko, Moz, Ahrefs, and Neil Patel. Those are all excellent blogs. Among them are the HubSpot blog and Seth Godin. There's Occam's Razor by Avinash Kaushik, which is he's the head of Google Analytics, and I swear by him, so he's definitely a data analytics blogger you must read. And then we are listed. The On Social Media show is listed as the 15th best blog to learn marketing. So thanks for that. It's a good list of blogs, not the least of which because we're included, but it's great. Pro tips. So another LinkedIn pro tip this week. For LinkedIn, you should add all your emails. So if you have more than one email, I have a bunch of email addresses. I've got my personal email address. I got an email address for the Beyond Social Media show. I have an email address for my company. I have several other email addresses for different websites. I even have emails from past employers in there. And then, so add all of your emails to your LinkedIn account and your phone number. So I have two phone numbers, a voicemail and my cell phone number. The reason you want to do that is that a lot of people, I don't know the exact number, but I suspect most people have their contacts synced with their LinkedIn account, because it's a business tool. There's a lot of value in having your contacts on your phone synced to your LinkedIn account, and because of that, then if you add all of your contact information and the names, and what do people keep in their contact information? They keep telephone numbers and email addresses. So if you have all of the available email addresses and phone numbers in your LinkedIn account, you are more likely to show up as a recommendation to people who have you as a contact but are not yet connected to you on LinkedIn. And it's likely that your content that you share on LinkedIn will get more visibility among those people, even if you aren't connected to them directly on LinkedIn yet. So I would go ahead and add all your emails and phone numbers to your contact on LinkedIn. You can do that at linkedin.com/P as in privacy, P settings, one word, /email. I'll put a link to that in the show notes too, so you can click on it and add them. Finally, let's wrap this up. The daily numbers. This is from a Marketing Land survey. In-demand technical digital marketing skills. So the question is, which technical skills do digital agencies worldwide think will be most needed 2 years from now? Data science and analysis leads the list. 72% said that. Conversion rate optimization is next at 59%. 48%. Computer science / AI is next at 52%. Technical SEO is tied with that at 52%. Campaign management at 39%. Ease with MarTech and ad tech tools at 37%. Video production, the same, 37%. Programming, 31%. Web and app development, 31%. And graphic design, 22%. So there you go. Those are the skills and technologies you need to brush up on for the next 2 years. And with that, we've come to the end of episode number 264 of the Beyond Social Media Show. You can find us again by searching Beyond Social Media Show. You'll find our website and all our social links and all that. Just search for Beyond Social Media Show. Links to everything that we talked about for this episode, you can find at beyondsocialmediashow.com/264. Let me know what you think of the show. Just send me an email at david@bsmediashow.com. I'd love to hear what you thought of the show, or if you have any questions or comments, tell us. Send BL some love. Tell her to hurry up and heal so she can rejoin the show. You can find BL on Twitter at What's Next. She blogs at her What's Next blog. That's what'snextblog.com. She's on YouTube at What's Next blog. I am on Twitter at DErickson. I'm on Instagram at DEErickson. I blog at e-strategyblog.com. And until next time, thanks for watching.